Welcome into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We have got news right up to the moment that we come on the air here with you as we get ready to discuss local, regional, and national sports topics for the next couple of hours. And it's on and popping. Wade, I hope you're ready.
Let's do it, baby. Should be fun. Looking forward to the next couple hours here.
Should be a lot of fun. Again, plenty to talk about from the weekend, plenty to talk about from today. Again, right up to the minute. In the second hour, we're going to visit with Steve LAYMAN of News Channel 5 to kind of discuss the events of yesterday afternoon over at Nissan Stadium and what they might mean long term. Because I think somebody's going to have a decision to make here before too long if things continue to go the way they have to this point. But Steve's probably a little closer to it than some of us are, so we'll get his thoughts on the inner workings of the Tennessee Titans in the next hour. In the next segment, I'm fired up for this, man. Friday night, socials were popping over Antioch Junior quarterback Andre Adams, who had a game for the ages over on Mallory Lane here in Franklin against the Centennial Cougars. We are going to chat with ARCENTAE BROOME, longtime Metro football coach, currently coach of the Antioch Bears, about the record-setting performance that Andre Adams put out on the field the other night. And, you know, again, what it means for that young man, because these are some numbers that, well, obviously never been seen in Tennessee before. So I'm excited to talk about a little high school football on a Monday. I'm a little bit more excited to talk about high school football than I am professional football at this moment. So should be a lot of fun when we get Coach Broome on. It always is. Again, one of the few head coaches who still tapes his wrists on Friday nights. One of my favorite stories. We're also going to talk a little soccer, a little professional soccer. That may not be a whole lot of fun, but we're going to talk about it anyway. A little baseball. We'll get into some college football as well as pro, some WNBA playoff talk. The Preds got on the ice in a competitive situation this weekend, twice actually. We'll talk a little bit about that. And the NASCAR playoffs continue. So, again, a lot to get into on the field, off the field, on the court, off the court, on the ice, etc., etc., etc. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm pumped. The fact we got a head coach on, not on Coach's Corner, lets you know how big of a segment that's going to be. So it'll be fun to catch up with ARCENTAE BROOME. And yeah, a massive amount of football talk to break down from the weekend here.
Yeah, from preps to pros, we're going to be covering it all here over the next couple of hours. And yeah, Wade, to your point, you know, if we're talking high school football and it's not on a Thursday, it's pretty significant. And I think this warranted that. So, again, looking forward to catching up with Coach Broome here in the next segment as we talk a little local high school gridiron stuff. There's the lay of the land for the next couple of hours. Let's go ahead and get it started, Wade, with with the weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
The rundown we go, boys and girls, but before we get into it, each and every single Monday, our rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County, so give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831, or you can visit them at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Friday night high school football. Again, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in the next segment. But Blackman with a 49-0 win over Laverne. It was Brentwood with a 24-6 victory over Shelbyville. Brentwood Academy blanked Christian Brothers 31-0. Baylor with a 48-7 win over Christ Presbyterian Academy. Cane Ridge edging Overton 20-14. Antioch 54, Centennial 40. More later. Clarksville with a 56-0 win over McGavock. It was Lawson 24, Clarksville Northeast 21. Columbia Central with a 38-22 win over Lawrence County. Coverage of that one at mainstreetmurray.com. Also coverage of Grace Christian 35, Columbia Academy 7. The Lions ruining homecoming for the Bulldogs with that one. Richland 42, Community 8. You can read about it in the Pulaski Citizen. Also coverage of Creekwood and Battle Creek. It was the Redhawks 41, the Grizzlies 20. We've got that at Main Street Murray as well. Franklin Road Academy 35, Davidson Academy 14, Eagleville 34, Cornersville 6, Springfield with a 29-28 win over East Nashville. Man, barn burner there. Memphis University School with a 29-26 win over Zach Mettenberger and the Father Ryan Irish. It was Ravenwood continuing to storm through its schedule, 42-10 over the Admirals of Franklin. Donaldson Christian Academy 43, Franklin Christian 28. Friendship Christian with a 42-26 win over Clarksville Academy. Hillsborough downed Glencliff 35-6. Good Pasture with a 30-21 win over Pope John Paul II. Green Hill defeated Gallatin 46-13. Hendersonville with a 48-0 win over Hunters Lane. 48-0. There's your thunder, Mark. Hickman County 37, Montgomery Central 14, Independence with a 35-6 win over Coffee County. Cheatham County blanked Innovation Academy 26-0. Pearl Cone with its first win of the season 19-0 against Kenwood. It was East Robertson holding off Kirkwood 28-24. Montgomery Bell Academy with a 13-10 win over Knoxville Catholic. Ensworth 56, Lipscomb Academy 8. Loretto with a 28-7 win over Collinwood. You can read about that one at the LawrenceCountyAdvocate.net. And Spring Hill getting its first win of the season, 23-14. Coverage at MainStreetMurray.com.
More scores coming your way from Friday. McEwen with a 24-20 win over Houston County. Middle Tennessee Christian defeating Concord Christian 42-35. Jefferson County slipping by Mount Juliet 27-21. Mount Pleasant wallops Decatur County Riverside 50-14. Nashville Christian doing the same to Mount Juliet Christian 71-6. Protect the women and children if you're a fan of Mount Juliet Christian there. Notre Dame with a 28-21 victory over Providence Christian. Page walloping Henry County 49-14. It was Oakland blanking Siegel 38-zip. Smyrna with a big win 41-11 versus Rockvale. It was Lebanon 35, Station Camp 29. Fairview Cruises 42-7 over Stewart County. Riverdale with a nice victory 35-7 over Stewart's Creek. Summertown defeating Scotts Hill 43-12. Lincoln County, look out folks, the Falcons with a nice win yet again 35-13 over Summit. Sycamore cruising versus Harpeth on Friday night, 41-10 was your final. It was Nolansville defeating Tullahoma 27-19. Beach turns back Upperman 42-27. Stratford defeating Westside Indiana 19-12 was your final on Friday night. Westmoreland 31, White House 28. Watertown with a 17-14 victory over White House Heritage. Whites Creek with a 20-14 victory over Liberty Creek. Cookeville defeating Wilson Central 34-6, and Zion Christian nice and tidy 7-0 over Christian Community. Volleyball scores from Friday. Battle Creek with a 5-setter in favor of the Grizzlies, 3-2, versus Santa Fe. Blackman with a 2-0 victory over Good Pasture. Same scoreline as Cleveland defeated Oakland. Page picking up a 2-1 win versus Gallatin. Gallatin bouncing back with a 2-0 victory versus Springfield. Don't have a score listed for Cleveland and Oakland, but I can tell you Oakland defeated St. George's 2-0 later that night. Harpeth 2, Riverdale 1. Riverdale bouncing back with a 2-0 victory versus Jackson County. Franklin Christian with a 2-1 win versus Rockvale. Rockvale with a 2-0 win versus Ottawa. And closing our Friday night volleyball action, it was Siegel blanking Lebanon 2-zip and then defeating Hume Fogg 2-1.
Friday night on the pitch, it was Kirkwood with a 3-0 win over Munford. Oh, shootout. Hume Fogg 6, Portland 5, and Riverdale handling Laverne 5-0. Major League Baseball on Friday. The Atlanta Braves continued their win streak with a 10-1 victory up at Detroit. A lot of long balls in this one. We'll probably be talking a little bit more about it later in the show. And the Seattle Mariners go into Houston, pick up a 4-0 win over the Astros, taking possession of first place in the American League West. The Nashville Sounds wrapping up their final series of the season. Friday night, they defeated Louisville 6-4. Kind of a indication of things to come later on over the weekend for the Sounds. And in the WNBA, Game 3 of the quarterfinals, the only Game 3, That's not right. Anyway, Phoenix knocked
On
off
Friday.
New York. Yeah, Friday. The New York Liberty was knocked off by the Phoenix Mercury 79-73. Phoenix advances. High school football on Saturday morning, Saturday midday. Dixon County, they put Wade to work Saturday. That's not cool. Dixon County with a 45-19 win, though, over Clarksville Northwest.
Enjoyed the trip, though. It was fun out there. Dixon County winning their first quote-unquote home game of the season over there at Creekwood. Good dub for the Cougs. Volleyball scores. They got a lot of volleyball action from Saturday, and we start with Blackman, who defeats Harpeth Hall 2-0. Summertown with a 2-0 win versus Blackman. Blackman, however, just when you think you had them pinned down, they come back with a 2-1 win over St. Agnes Academy. Rockvale 2, Cleveland 0. Nolensville winning a 2-0 match versus Cleveland as well. Coffee County 2, Spring Hill 1. Community with a 2-0 victory versus Centennial. Eagleville picking up a couple of wins, 2-0 over Warren County, same score versus Spring Hill. Gallatin 2, Loretto 0. Creekwood with a 2-zip victory over Gallatin, but Gallatin bounces back in a straight setter 2-0 versus Grace Christian Franklin. Murfreesboro Central Magnet, couple of nice wins, 2-0 versus Shelbyville, 2-0 versus Hardin Valley. Lincoln County defeating Central Magnet in the third match for the Tigers, on Saturday. Oakland picking up a 2-0 win versus Cookeville. Franklin Christian 2, Oakland 1. It was Silverdale Academy 2, Oakland 0. Riverdale with a 2-0 win over Hume Fogg, but then they were blanked by Franklin Christian 2-0. Lebanon 2, Rockvale 0. It was also Rockvale with a 2-0 win over Harpeth. Collierville defeating Siegel 2-zip. Silverdale Academy doing the same to Siegel. Spring Hill with not one, not two, but three victories. Warren County 2-0, Franklin County 2-0, and they closed the day with a 2-1 victory versus Bledsoe County. Girls soccer from Saturday. Bearden picking up a 5-0 win versus Innsworth. It was Westview 3 and Kirkwood 3, 3-3 draw. A lot of goals, but couldn't settle anything. Good tie there for both of those teams. Trinity Christian with a 4-0 win versus Kirkwood. Providence Christian picking up a 6-0 victory versus St. Cecilia Academy.
College football of area interest on Saturday. Tennessee taking care of business up in Neyland Stadium against visiting Alabama Birmingham, 56-24. Marshall coming into Murfreesboro ruining homecoming for the Blue Raiders. The Herd, 42. MTSU, 28. Vanderbilt, goodness gracious, if y'all watch this was fun. Vanderbilt taking care of business 70-21 against Georgia State at First Bank Stadium. And Abilene Christian with a 45-31 win over Austin Peay. Major League Baseball from Saturday, it was the Atlanta Braves 6, the Detroit Tigers 5, and it was the Seattle Mariners 6, the Houston Astros 4. Up at Louisville, the host Bats defeated Nashville 9-8. And in Major League Soccer action on Saturday, it was Orlando City with a 3-2 win over the Boys in Gold from the Nashville Soccer Club. Sunday action on the Diamond. Atlanta closes out the series at Detroit with a 6-2 win. Seattle closes out the series at Houston with a 7-3 win. Nashville closes out the series at Louisville and the season with an 11-4 win over the Bats. More on that one later in the show. And in the NFL at Nissan Stadium, it was the Indianapolis Colts 41, the Tennessee Titans 20.
Bonus NFL score, Mo. Want to shout out. I'm a man that pays his bets up, and me and my former radio host, the James, the Big Dog Horn, the biggest Buccaneers fan on the planet, so I'm rocking for you today, buddy. They defeated my beloved New York Jets, the woeful Jets, 29-27. Hell of a finish, though, as there were a lot of close ones in that witching hour yesterday. But I digress. Let's go to high school football. Yes, I said high school football. We got a 6 p.m. Monday night football showdown this evening as Rossview heads to West Creek. And volleyball action tonight at 5. It'll be Lighthouse Christian. That's out of Antioch, who is traveling to Zion Christian. 5:45, we'll see Middle Tennessee Christian at Riverdale. 6 p.m. showdowns now from Marshall County at Columbia. Forest will travel to Columbia Academy. Mount Pleasant will visit Culleoka. Hampshire doing the same to Hickman County tonight. Battle Creek will make the trip over to Hohenwald to meet Lewis County. And Rockvale will visit Wilson Central. Girls soccer schedule for this evening. Lawrence County is at Hardin County. That kickoff is set for 5 p.m. Also at 5, it'll be the Middle Tennessee Golden Eagles at St. Cecilia Academy. 6 p.m. showdowns now as Hume Fogg travels to White House Heritage. Fairview is on the road at Creekwood. Loretto is at Lewis County. Pope John Paul II is at Brentwood Academy. That match gets underway at 6:30. They will kick it off at 7 o'clock tonight when Liberty Creek travels to BGA. Don't have a start time listed, but our schedule does show Marshall County making a trip to Linville to take on the Richland Lady Raiders. MLB action tonight at 6:15. You can see this one on the MLB network. The Nationals and Braves will tangle. Once again, a 6:15 first pitch. And NFL Monday Night Football action. Big old showdown tonight in Baltimore as the Ravens will host the Lions. That game, again, kicks off at 7:15. You can see that one on ABC. That brings us whole for our Monday schedule. Those were your weekend results. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your Monday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story, and it's double-barreled action. First of all, let's drop back to that Saturday night 3-2 loss for the Nashville Soccer Club at Orlando. The 6th loss in their last 7 MLS matchups. And I guess water finds its level, Wade.
100%. Said this for weeks now, and unfortunately it just kind of continues to play out. They were very reminiscent of the Preds 2 years ago, where they just went on such a run early that, everything was sunshine and puppy dogs and hummingbirds and life is great. But this is a team that is still just in its first year and a half of a coaching change, still trying to get things figured out. Nothing gold can stay, pony boys, they like to say, and NSC is finding that out the hard way. They're also finding out, Mo, how much revenge that Orlando had on its mind. I closed the show Friday by saying that NSC had not only knocked them out of the U.S. Open Cup, but had already defeated them once in 2 hard-fought contests. Orlando kind of got their licks in this weekend. NSC is still in decent shape. And again, because virtually every team makes the playoffs in the MLS, they're still pretty good shape for the playoffs. But they are taking a real tumble down the table right now, as it were. And they got some real soul-searching to do over these next 2 weeks to kind of close things out.
Jacob Schaffelberg and Sam Surridge getting the 2 goals for NSC in this one. But, man, like you said, it's been a tumble since they went on that run there mid-season. Again, losing 6 of their last 7 in MLS play. Now they do have the U.S. Open Championship to play for here in about a week and a half. But man, this just long term, all of a sudden, it doesn't look great for this team. You kind of spoke to it. They're still in decent shape just for the fact that everybody goes to the playoffs, but at some point seeding becomes an issue. And where's that? What's happening with that?
Yeah, I mean, you're currently tied with Columbus on the 7-8 line, and, the 8-9 is a play-in game, as it were, or play-in series, as it were. So, I mean, it is looking pretty dire for NSC. And, the frustrating thing is they've cleared most of the hurdle in terms of the U.S. Open Cup. They're not playing multiple matches. This is not like Leagues Cup a few years ago where they're playing a boatload of matches. That kind of bulk of their schedule has been thinned out, and now obviously they're on to the final. And like Valera's told us a couple of times, and a lot of soccer fans, you kind of almost very rarely is a team good enough to kind of go all in and compete for multiple championships. And NSC is kind of in that boat right now, and kind of you need to make this season a real success by hopefully pulling off a shocker down in Austin next Wednesday. If you can do that, you'll still be upset if you don't maybe make a deep run in the MLS playoffs, but at least you will have that trophy in your cabinet. So it has not been a great second half stretch in terms of MLS play. They still got the goods to come back. I mean, Orlando's just 1 spot above them. We told you guys, though, that Miami would make a run. They now have 2 matches in hand, 3 matches in hand for some teams, but they're climbing the table. Messi is scoring at will. He's probably going to end up being your Golden Boot winner at this point. Things are kind of going south for Nashville, but it's not as bleak as some might indicate.
Yeah, I misspoke. It wasn't Schaffelberg and Surridge. It was Mukhtar and Schaffelberg scoring the goals for Nashville in that 3-2 loss at Orlando City on Saturday night. Other news, Southeastern Conference basketball, and folks won't have Bruce Pearl to kick around anymore. Apparently, the Auburn coach has announced his resignation/retirement. I'm not sure what it is. Not sure what's next. Got a pretty good idea, but this is kind of a in progress. It's a developing type story, and I'm sure Wade and Calvin will have more on it tomorrow. But since it was kind of coming into form here as we got ready to go on the air, wanted to go ahead and mention it here. Again, Bruce Pearl has stepped down as men's basketball coach at Auburn University, and Wade, it's interesting to me because much like we discussed Brent Pry and Deshaun Foster last weekend after getting fired by Virginia Tech and UCLA, the transfer portal opens up for these guys in the event of a coaching change, right?
Yeah, portal's going to open up, and, it will be interesting to see kind of how this plays out. The timing of this, in some regards, could not be worse for Auburn at large. If you're a member of the Pearl family, specifically a younger member of the Pearl family, the timing of this maybe cannot be better because they're stuck with you as the head coach, and, they're going to be pretty decent, assuming especially everybody comes back. They're probably going to be a top 20 team, if nothing else, this year. So if you kind of guide the ship and, you have a decent season, maybe you make a run in the tournament, and you're looking around saying, hey, why don't you guys just give me the job full time? Not a bad strategy, if that was your strategy. Obviously, you hinted at it a moment ago. The immediate thing that everybody's going to assume is that Pearl's going to make a run, a U.S. Senate type endeavor here. And we've seen that come out of that state before. Probably will see it again, and Pearl seems like a likely candidate if that's what he wants to do.
It's going to be interesting to watch, obviously, both on the floor and at the ballot box. We'll be keeping an eye on it.
Two floors. I see what you did there. The floor of the Senate, perhaps.
There we go. Perhaps. Let's take a break here as we get started with the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little high school football with Antioch coach ARCENTAE Broome. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back in as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely paying homage to James Horn and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm Maurice Patton, kind of enjoying the last little bit of baseball season here. And we're joined now by veteran Metro Nashville football coach ARCENTAE BROOME, currently of the Antioch Bears, who went out to Williamson County over the weekend and picked up an impressive victory, defeating Centennial 54-40 behind a huge performance from his quarterback, Andre Adams. Coach?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear
see
us?
me?
We cannot see you. We can hear you. We cannot see you.
Can you see me?
There
now?
we go. Now we can see you. That's it. That's it. You just had to make that theatrical appearance there. I like that, Coach. Hey, thanks for taking some time with us this afternoon. First of all, man, I was starting to see the numbers late Friday night after I got done with my game, and it continued. The buzz continued Saturday morning. Friend of mine, friend of the show, Chris Lee from Southeastern 16, just hit me up out of nowhere. Said he was at the game Friday night, and I'm just going to read you this. I watched Andre Adams last night, and man, he is a perfect fit at Vandy. They had coaches there. I've never seen a stat line like this. Throws it 50 yards on the move with a flick of the wrist, glides when he runs. Did not see him make a bad decision all night. Throws intermediate balls with great accuracy. Andre, Friday night in that win over Centennial, 19 of 27 for 507 yards, 4 touchdowns, 18 rushes for 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 714 offensive yards, which by 1 yard sets a TSSAA single game record previously set by Connor York of Upperman back in 2013 in the second round of the playoffs. As a matter of fact, York threw for 337, ran for 376, total 713. I'm not going to ask for an audit of those numbers in light of the record, Coach, but first, congratulations. Second, did you have any idea while it was going on what that was all going to add up to?
Man, you know what? First of all, I appreciate you guys having me. Honestly, Mo, I never thought about it while it was going on. It was a shootout, and look, we needed every bit of what he did on Friday night. Centennial was very explosive offensively, and we kind of took advantage of some of the things we knew that they were doing on defense. But I never thought about it. I think on the bus ride home, I'm driving, and I'm just kind of thinking like, man, we scored a lot of points, and I said to myself, man, we probably had about 600 yards. You know, just saying it out loud, not even thinking about it to myself. And man, when George Robinson from the Tennessean gave me a call, it got me thinking, and he had some numbers. I said, George, I think we're a little bit more than that, but I'll check. And my stat guy came to me and was like, Coach, his numbers were a little bit off, and he had a little over 500 and close to the 207. But I had my offensive coordinators go back later on that night and retally everything, and that's when we saw it. And we had 2 other people doing it, And it was crazy because Jacob Underwood hit me up, and he was like, "Man, great game, coach." And he just said it. I think Adams broke a record, and I was like, 1:45 in the morning. Poop, poop, poop. Hey, coach, where are you at where are you at with those stats? And yeah, because it got my wheels turning. So I was like, wow. So yeah, it was a performance for the ages, but Andre is so cool and so calm and so poised in everything that he does that it was kind of very unassuming that it happened. You know, you just didn't. If you were there, you saw it, and in the moment you were like, wow, but you never would think that it was like that.
I mean, again, 507 passing yards on 19 completions. That's nearly 27 yards per completion, man. I mean, and obviously you had to have it in a 54-40 win, but even in your wildest dreams, you couldn't draw it up like that, what your offense is capable of, could you?
No, you couldn't. And the crazy thing is that we were scoring. We probably had a chance to return the football 3 times. One time was a 65-yard return. The rest of them were touchbacks, or we were deep in our own territory, and our scoring, we weren't having methodical drives. If we scored, they were 1 or 2 plays, maybe 3, and they were down the field. And he just, when the defense broke down, he used his legs, and when he needed to stay in the pocket, he threw it. And our receivers did a great job of running routes, getting open, and catching the football Friday night. Did a great job.
Coach, you mentioned the Tennessean, and George Robinson hits you up, but when Jacob Underwood gets his grips on you, that's the stat guy of stat guys. That's an old buddy of mine, and when he's digging, he's kind of like Pablo Torre. I mean, he's going to go into the weeds, and so that when you just said that made me feel comfortable with those numbers. But hey, I do got to ask you, Coach.
Okay.
I don't want to be that guy, but what were your thoughts about your defense giving up 40? You said you needed all 54. How do you process that and now try and maybe batten down the hatches after giving up 40 to a really good Centennial team?
Man, you know what's crazy is that my D coordinator, he's been all weekend. That's all he called me, be like, Coach, we gave up 40 points. And I had to tell him, I said, Coach, I'll take that piece because I do all the special teams. And I said, we muffed a punt inside our 20. And after one of their scores, we're up. And they bloop one right behind the second group. Mm-hmm. And it somehow or another, the ball gets kicked and it ends up on the 12-yard line. And so those 2 faux pas, that kind of puts us in a bad situation. We punted. We only punted twice. One was a quick kick, and the other one we punted kind of deep in our end zone, and I think they got the ball on about the 50. But our kickoff team, I told my kicker, man, stop kicking it to number 3. And of course, you know how that goes with teenagers. He was kicking it to number 3, and he kept. They didn't have bad field position. So, in retrospect, I had to tell him, look, Coach, don't be as hard on yourself because special teams kind of contributed to that. But now coming back at the third quarter was probably our worst quarter. And they came out and scored immediately, missed tackles a couple of times, but we amped up the pressure. We amped up the pressure on them a lot into the third, fourth quarter. And we were sending a number of blitz. We were sending 5 and 6 sometimes, just trying to just not allow. That quarterback is very crafty. He can do a lot of different things. And I figured out, look, what we cannot do is allow him to sit back and kind of play us like a yo-yo or like a fiddle. And we sent pressure, making him get rid of the football and making his playmakers make choices or making him make bad choices. And it kind of worked for us because we got the stops that we needed.
It was a massive win, but, Coach, it was a non-region game. How fun was that, I guess, kind of being in the middle of the season and having a record performance and just a crazy back-and-forth game? But now you still got the second half and everything's still intact, obviously, at 5-0, but undefeated still in region play.
Now, I'm telling you, that was I've been in a couple of games kind of like that. not to that magnitude, but hadn't always been on the winning side of it. But that was a big game. We knew going in that we were going to have a big challenge. And I think one of my friends said, I guess the first one to 40, and if they got to 40 first, we just were able to do some things to kind of curtail what they did on offense. And man, being in it was great. I'm glad we came on the other side unscathed. But now, the second half of the season, man, we just got to keep things rolling and just keep believing, man. We got a lot of kids this year that were there last year that they're believing in what we do. The summer was big for us. We went back old school. We did a lot of log rolling, seated rolls. We did a lot of things that you don't see coaches doing anymore. But and I credit that to Coach Bell, Rayshawn Bell, man. He put our guys through a lot of different drills that had some of the younger coaches like, hey, what coach is doing? But I tell them, man, that those things helped us play fast. We're playing fast football across the board. We're not a big team at all. Our linemen are, average size, but we get off the ball well on both sides, and our guys, we've been executing on both sides of the ball well.
ARCENTAE BROOME, Antioch High School football coach, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. His quarterback, Andre Adams, set a single-game TSSAA total offensive yardage record in their 54-40 win at Centennial on Friday night, 714 total yards. Coach, I had heard Andre's name here over the last couple of years. He's a junior now. Heard a lot of great things about him. Again, Chris Lee just blowing me up Saturday morning about him, having seen Friday night. I don't know that you ever see something like this coming, but he's clearly kind of established himself as one of the top quarterbacks in Nashville, and that was even before Friday night.
Look, I told guys from 615 Friday night, I said, honestly, I believe, and I said, you could say I'm biased or whatever, but after some of the things I've watched him do from last year to this year, and he's made strides. The biggest thing for him, and I challenged him at the beginning of the year, was to be more of a leader. He's a quiet kid, and sometimes when you're quiet and you're not vocal, you can lead, but it doesn't always show up in your team's performance. And he's been stepping his game up there. Just the way he carries himself, how he goes about. You don't have to tell him to warm up. You don't have to spark him up to do anything. He just goes out and he performs. And I told those guys, I said, I really believe Andre Adams is the best quarterback in the state. And I know we've got some big time guys. You got Jared out there. You've got Dion from Whites Creek. You've got a couple of other guys that are playing and having great seasons right now. But Andre, I really can't compare him to anybody. He reminds me of what Marcel is doing out there at Texas A&M right now, and he is a pure quarterback. He can make every throw, but when it breaks down, he can lull you to sleep with them slow moves that he has. But he's a playmaker, and he gets it done.
I saw him listed at 6'3", 185, Coach, and I was a little surprised to see that because he looks bigger in the pictures that I've seen of him. How close to accurate is that?
That's about right. 6'3" is about right. He might be 6'3" and a quarter, but right around 6'3", about 180. He stronger than what he looks. Has a lot of power, and he displays that. He displayed a little bit of that Friday night. If he wants to if he's within 3 yards of the end zone, it's not even about falling forward. He's going to take you with him.
As a former running back, you like that, don't you?
Oh, most definitely.
Rated as a 4-star quarterback in the 2027 recruiting class, Coach. What's he got going on right now?
Vanderbilt was out there. They really like him, and he likes Vanderbilt as well. He's got a lot of ACC schools: Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Boston College has been out. He's got Wake, Purdue. He's got Arkansas. Bob Trino was here. Watched him throw one afternoon for about 45 minutes. Mississippi State. He's, USF. Coach Golis and his guys have been here several times. Cincinnati has been here a few times. Stanford has been here. Doesn't have Stanford yet, but I think it could be coming. I mean, he's got multitude of schools. Doesn't have a lot of the blue bloods yet from your Georgias, Alabamas, places like that, Florida. But I think, man, if they reconsider and just take another look and just see this kid is special. Very, very special.
Coach, it's obviously outstanding stuff for Andre, but I'm just curious, what is it, having those type of folks lingering around your program and kind of paying attention to your program, what does that do for everybody else on your football team?
Oh, man, it sends it through the stratosphere. I mean, and I tell guys all the time, like, where else would you want to be? I mean, look, we're a metro school. It's Antioch High School. Our things that have happened are well documented. You know, we've gone through our troubles. The school, as far as the football program, has been down in the depths for a while. Coach Arnold came and kind of helped resurrect it, and I'm just kind of taking over the reins. But if I'm a guy that says I want to play college football, why would I not want to come and be around and be a part of a program that has a kid that has multiple schools coming in on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we go out, we have a workout session for any coach that comes. We'll have 7 or 8 guys out there, receivers, catching routes. Mm-hmm. So right now, that's allowing me, if I'm a receiver or a running back, now I'm getting a chance to be looked at by those same coaches. So yeah, if it were me, if this was 1993, I'd be like, hey, coach, I'm right here catching the ball. Hey, what are we doing?
Yeah, somebody's got to make the grabs, right?
Somebody's got to do it. So yeah, it puts those other guys in a very good position to be looked at and be recruited.
Yeah, because if they're coming to see him, they're going to see you, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Definitely. 1,400 passing yards, 15 touchdowns. Again, to Chris Lee's point, 1 pick through 5 games, 515 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's going to go over the 2,000-yard mark this weekend. Who do y'all have Friday night, Coach?
We've got a Cane Reeves. It's a region game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a rivalry game. So
they get there early, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and then too, you know, it's a game where, you know, we're right on the same road, you know, mile or 2 away, and it's one of those games where, you know, this is where I shouldn't have to say a whole lot, you know, just by it being a rivalry game, that should be your motivation. So, you know, we're going to go into it. Yeah, enough said. We're going to go into it like any other competition. But again, this is a region game, and it really counts. So we've got to play our best football.
Now, how do you approach this game with Andre, Coach? Again, coming off of the performance that he had this past Friday night. I mean, he's not going to go out and do this again, right?
No. 9 times out of 10, he probably won't. But that's the thing about Andre. We don't have to put him in the right frame of mind. I think he goes into it automatically understanding the assignment, knowing, you know, I have to do these things in order for my team to win. I have to put the same effort I put in to week 3. Week 1 is I'm going to put in for week 6. So it's no different with him. I've always said this: when you have kids that their demeanor doesn't change a lot, and they're even keeled, sometimes you don't have to prime those guys. They're already ready. You know, they're just like the Nike sign. They just do it regardless of what the day is, whether it's rain, sleet, or snow. And I think that's where Andre approaches every single competition.
Coach, any thought to, you know, hey, real sneaky move here. Big performance last week. What if you went triple option on Friday? Any chance of that happening? Bust out the wishbone on him, Coach.
Man, look, we're gonna try to. We do need to get our run game up a little bit more. But if I told the coaches, man, they'd be like, "Coach, what are you doing?" They don't want no parts of that. They don't want to see those days. I'm the only one that has ever lived in that.
So they don't want to see that smokestack eye from Stratford, then, huh, Coach?
No, they don't want to see rollout blast and 42 pitch. They don't want that.
Just a thought, but I like your strategy a whole lot better, Coach.
Coach, I gotta ask you before I let you go, because a lot of times this stuff starts at the top. You still taping your wrists on Friday night?
Come on, man. Every Friday. I mean, it never fails. I always tape the left first, and then I tape my right. So yeah, I'm that. You ask any player that's ever played for me, and they'll tell you your coach still tapes his wrist every Friday night.
You know, Dusty Baker wore his batting gloves in the dugout when he was managing. ARCENTAE BROOME tapes his wrists on Friday night before his teams go to war. Antioch, Cane Ridge, Friday night, as Andre Adams comes off a record-setting performance this past weekend over at Centennial. We'll be keeping an eye out for him and the Bears, Coach, and we appreciate you taking some time with us.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Thank you for all y'all do for high school sports, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Bye-bye.
Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stay tuned.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
September 22nd, 1997. By the time Atlanta took the field at Turner Field for its matchup with Montreal, the Braves had already clinched their sixth straight National League East championship, thanks to the Mets' win over the Marlins earlier in the day. Still, Danny Bautista's one-out run on an 11th-inning wild pitch walked off the Expos 3-2 to set off the real celebration. 6 consecutive division titles set a major league mark, which the Braves extended over each of the following 8 seasons to a current record of 14. That was this day in Braves history. No division championships in line for the Braves this time around, but with their 6-2 win over the Tigers yesterday, they completed a series sweep of the AL Central leaders for now. Also completed a 7-0 road trip with 4 at Washington and 3 at Detroit. Extended their win streak to 8. Longest of the season. So when you can have your season best win streak after Labor Day and you are still mired in 4th place, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how much you get out of it, but it did keep me from watching the Titans yesterday. So there was that. But again, Atlanta 6, Detroit 2 yesterday. Spencer Strider, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts. Ha-Seong Kim hit his 5th home run. Drake Baldwin hit his first career triple. Too little, too late, obviously, but gives you something positive to take out of 2025 for the Braves right now. Meanwhile, Detroit has lost 6 straight and is nursing a 1-game lead over the Guardians in said AL Central. So decent weekend for the Braves.
Yeah, we mentioned, that's all you got to play for down the stretch is to hopefully spoil someone's season. The only bad part is after all of that, now you close the season. It's not quite as fun. You got the Nationals and the Pirates to close it out. It's like, hey, give us some people we could really jack up in terms of their postseason.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now we got these guys coming to town.
Yeah, it's kind of sad the way the schedule broke. I mean, if the Braves have been in contention for something, you'd really kind of like wrapping up with 3 at home against Washington and 3 at home against Pittsburgh. You like your chances to, clinch something there. But as it stands, the Braves 73 and 83 coming into this final season homestand. Washington 64 and 92. So at least the Nats aren't going to lose 100, but interesting matchup here. Mackenzie Gore going for the Nats, 5 and 14 with a 4 earned run average. Chris Sale, 5 and 5 with a 2.35. Man, he's been nails all year. Hasn't always gotten the outcomes to show for it, but sure he's going to want to go out here. I don't know if this will be his last start or if he'll get one more, but wanting to follow up on that Cy Young award season from last year as best he can with the injuries that he's dealt with. So should be a good one here tonight. Again, first of 3 against the Nationals tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday, off Thursday, and then Pittsburgh Friday, Saturday, Sunday to wrap it up for the Braves. And again, try to get this Rookie of the Year for Drake Baldwin and hopefully continue to see some good things out of Kim and hopefully get him comfortable to the point that he picks up that player option or sticks around, because that kind of addresses the shortstop question that folks around the organization have had for the last 2 or 3 years, if that's the case. So plenty still to watch for this Braves team if you are of a mind to do so. Meanwhile, Houston drops a 7-3 decision to Seattle yesterday as the Mariners completed a sweep and took a 3-game lead in the American League West. Cal Raleigh hits his 58th home run yesterday. J.P. Crawford with a grand slam to help put that thing away. And, all of a sudden, Houston's kind of scrambling a little bit because they are tied for the 3rd and final wild card spot because the Yankees and the Red Sox are going to take home 2 of those behind Toronto. So basically everybody else is playing for 1.
Yep,
Houston's
3-team
got some
race.
work to do.
3-team race, and it's going to be up to Houston to try and take care of business. The schedule is kind of favorable for them with the A's and the Angels to close it out. But, yeah, Fangraphs, 66% chance to make the playoffs. They're right there. It'll be some combo of the Tigers, Guardians, or Astros. Don't know who, don't know where. But one of those teams is going to get left out as the Rangers, their bid fell by the wayside last week. They really kind of stunk it up the last 2 weeks after making a strong push. But, yeah, it's up to Houston. They led by 7 games in mid-July, and they've gone pretty brutal down the stretch, 13 and 18 since July 6th. So they've been pretty woeful, been outscored by 26 runs. And, it will be up to them to try and rally. They're still in a decent spot versus the Guardians, that is, assuming the Tigers are not going to continue to fall off a cliff, but maybe not, who knows. But yeah, going to the A's for a couple beginning tomorrow, and then going to LA to close things out over the weekend. It's going to be interesting down the stretch here.
No doubt. What's wild to me is there is not a single, who the teams are, you feel like, but not a single postseason berth from the American League has been clinched yet. Again, you feel like you know who the teams are for the most part, but nothing is official as of yet.
Yeah, could come as soon as tonight or tomorrow. But the Blue Jays have officially clinched at least a berth, but we don't know who or what. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen. The Mariners still technically have not clinched the West, but that's pretty much an inevitability. They could clinch as soon as Wednesday of this week, at least according to ESPN. So a whole big bag of everybody just reaching in and see who you pull out in terms of your bracket. Probably about 3 days from now, we'll really have a little bit clearer picture, but it is going to be a wild, wild AL postseason picture.
Clayton Kershaw in his final appearance at Dodger Stadium, 4 1/3 innings, 6 Ks. So he did not get the decision, but the Dodgers won his final start at home, 6-3 over San Francisco. That wraps up another playoff berth. I don't know that clinched the NL West, but it does clinch the playoffs for the Dodgers. Is that right?
Yep, Dodgers are in. They got that on Friday, at least the postseason berth. They can clinch the division as early as tomorrow.
So from the National League, you've got the Phillies have clinched the National League East. The Brewers have clinched the NL Central. The Cubs are in. The Dodgers are in. So there's still 2 more spots to be wrapped up out of the National League. Right now, the Padres and the Reds are in control of those. The Mets at the moment on the outside looking in, apparently they have the same record as the Reds, but I guess the Reds hold the tiebreaker there. So, you'd hate to see the Mets miss out. Okay, no, I wouldn't. Nashville wrapping things up in solid fashion in International League play. 11-4 up at Louisville yesterday. Won 4 of the final 6 in that series after winning 5 of 6 at home against Gwinnett in their final home series. Nick Cale, 4 hits yesterday, drove in 5 runs, hit a home run, 1 of 4 for the Sounds, along with Jared Oliva, Jimmy Herron, and Daz Cameron, who it feels like all he's done was hit home runs since he got to Nashville in that midseason trade with the Orioles. So, Sounds finished the second half of the season 42-34, finished the year 86-63. No playoffs, but again, as we've discussed all year, for all of the movement that roster has seen to win as many games as they have, nice little accomplishment for them under Rick Sweet.
Keep things rolling. Hopefully, continue. Man, that franchise is so well run, seemingly from top to bottom. Will not be surprised to see them hopefully have a real bounce back year next year.
Tried to reach out to Doug Scopel earlier today to get a pronunciation on Nick Cale, which is spelled Kahle. He hit me back, kale, like the vegetable, but could not talk because he was on a flight. Doug is going to Ireland for this weekend's Vikings-Steelers game. It's a late 50th birthday gift for Scopes. So good for him. Getting out of town for a few days now that the season is over with for the Sounds. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Hope he enjoys it. Big game over there this weekend.
Yeah, but hopefully a happy flight for him. Now, do we know, is that a Vikings flight or is that a Steelers flight?
Oh, that's a Steelers flight.
Well, I was going to say, because one of them teams is feeling a whole lot better than the other. The Steelers did end up winning. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest, but, man, the Vikings looking pretty sharp these days.
Should be an interesting
with their new quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, that is definitely a Steelers flight. He is black and yellow to the heart. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one and see if we can see Doug in the crowd at some point Sunday morning. So look forward to that. Let's take a break as we wrap up the first hour of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little college football. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Wade, you with us? There we go. Let's jump into a little college football talk because the weekend locally, I guess, went about as expected. Starting over at First Bank Field again, Vanderbilt continues its role with a historic victory over Georgia State, 70-21, most points they scored in a game in more than 100 years. It kind of leaves you speechless when you put it in that context, I think. But I don't think there's any denying this. This is a good football team.
Yeah, playing well, and barring something insane happening, is going to be undefeated when they get their first quote-unquote real test of the season here in 2 weeks. The vibes could not be higher for the folks on West End. Took care of business. Got a little bit of quote-unquote revenge from a game that they stunk up the place in last year. But Vanderbilt's got bigger fish to fry. They're not. You could tell that from watching the game Saturday. Yeah, it was cool that you ran up the score and you got a little revenge. But that's not, they would have done that to anybody kind of in their way. It was just happening to be Georgia State on Saturday. This is a team that's playing with a lot of confidence right now. And that matchup, as soon as they can clear that hurdle versus Utah State, is going to be electric next week versus Bama in the rematch.
It really is, man. And who'd ever thought Vanderbilt, Alabama electric, right? But, yeah, it's going to be. And, you talk about revenge. I think that home team in that one will kind of be hell-bent to get some, or feel like they're going to try to get some. Might not be as easy as they'd like to think. But, yeah, Vanderbilt playing 3 quarterbacks by choice Saturday night. I mean, that's how deep they went in the depth chart. And when you're up 49, you can do that kind of thing. So, again, hats off to Clark Lee and the job that those folks have done over there. I don't know what you could possibly say bad about that team right now. They moved up to what, 18th in the AP poll this week?
Yep. Taking care of business, going about their business. Hopefully do the same this weekend, and then you can kind of start turning your attention toward the real meat of your schedule. Who knows how the back half will end up, but none of this could be transpired. We're used to Vanderbilt stubbing their toe either at Virginia Tech or at South Carolina or even a stinker versus Georgia State. They haven't done that. They've been past every mark thus far, and they're getting themselves in prime position for the second half of the season.
Without question. Tennessee, meanwhile, with a 56-24 win over Alabama Birmingham. Speaking of handling your business, I mean, I'm not sure what more you could have asked for out of UT under the circumstances than that. But apparently it was unexpected on the Blazers' part, because at some point Sherrod Bryant got irritated to the point of stomping on place kicker Max Gilbert's foot. You've probably seen the video. If you haven't and you are a college football fan, I'm not sure where you've been. But, walking past Gilbert after an extra point and just stomped on his foot. In some kind of way, none of Gilbert's teammates got a hold of Bryant. I guess they just felt like we'll let the authorities take care of this. He was penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct. Trent Dilfer said, I'm not happy with it. I want to get the full video of it. He will be disciplined because of it. Bryant goes on IG afterwards. First off, I would like to apologize to Max Gilbert for stepping on his foot. Not only that, I would like to apologize to my teammates, coaches, and also the Blazer Nation. What I did was inexcusable no matter the circumstances. I am better than that and take full accountability for my actions. It is not a representation of who I am as a player in person. Okay. So why'd you do it? And I get being frustrated with getting beat, but you know, that just feels really, really weak, really lame. Stepping on the place kicker's foot of all people. I mean, well, you didn't step on a lineman's foot, you know, you stepped on the place kicker's foot. Why? I don't get it.
Don't get it, UAB. I mean, there's a reason they're UAB. I mean, we're not exactly talking about a program that's lighting the world on fire. They got Army this week. Better be more concerned with that. Although I will give them credit. You asked what maybe could have gone better for Tennessee. They kind of, I mean, granted, you know, you're rolling in the game, but they kind of sleptwalked through a majority of the second half. So much so, they give up a late touchdown to UAB, which was very consequential to some folks out there, if you catch my drift. And Tennessee immediately drives down the field. They hit a wide receiver right in a bad spot in the end zone, right dead in the hands. Otherwise, we're talking about a lot of Vols fans, even though their team, if you catch my drift, won 56-24, they weren't exactly happy financially with the way that game ended. Josh Heupel getting the fist shaking from some of the poorer Vols fans after they don't cover the spread at 38.5.
My bad. I was unaware of the number.
Yeah, the good coaches cover. And, you know, Heupel, that was the crazy part, Mo. They drive right down the field. They throw a shot to the end zone. Like I said, it hits him smack dab in the hands. He drops the touchdown, and then Tennessee takes a knee the very next play. It's like, well, why did you throw to the end zone only to take a knee? Kind of a head scratcher if you were one of those Vols fans. I had a few that were texting me a little angry with the play calling down the stretch. I said, hey, guys, just enjoy the win.
When you said good coaches cover, it reminded me of our Wonder Slate from Friday and you picking Ole Miss over Tulane because Lane hadn't covered in 2 weeks. Well, he dang sure did this weekend.
Yeah, good. I mean, good coaches cover. I mean, you go back 2 weeks ago, you know, James Franklin, they're up. The spread is like 56 versus Villanova. Villanova has the sickest one-handed catch in the history of one-handed catches in the end zone, and everybody's like, okay, big whoop. Well, that was a tough one for the donors and for the boosters at Penn State because that took away the cover. Good coaches got to protect that number. That's the only good thing that UAB can take out of this is that Dilfer put the pedal to the metal in the second half and at least got his backers the number.
There we go. The number in Murfreesboro was 21. That's how many fourth quarter points Marshall put up in a 42-28 victory over the Blue Raiders, ruining homecoming, dropping MTSU to 1-3 on the season. Tough loss for Middle in a season full of them. So already, yeah, I don't know how much luster this takes off the 14-13 win out at Nevada the week before, but you know, it's not been a great start here in year 2 under Coach Mason.
No, not been a great start. And, you know, just when you thought you had some momentum, knew something was up, though, when you see Marshall favored by 2.5 going in that. And that was that weird game. You know, they didn't finish that game till close to midnight after a lengthy delay. Just an odd and unfortunate second straight year MTSU kind of gets embarrassed on homecoming because that's a Marshall team. We've talked so many different times on this program that has had so much of a churn in terms of coaching and roster. That was one. MTSU should be sitting here. Hopefully you were thinking 3-1 with the easiest Conference USA schedule they've ever had. And no one cares about that right now. They are in the exact opposite spot. The vibes could not be lower.
Nope, not at all. Speaking of low vibes, you know, we talked to Michael Felder on Friday, talked a little bit about the situations at Virginia Tech and UCLA. You know, Mike Gundy is an alumnus at Oklahoma State. I don't know if that helps or not, though, with them losing to Tulsa on Friday night, 19-12. Is he in trouble?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you asked a couple weeks ago, you had talked about, Oklahoma State going out to Oregon and how that game would turn out. And who was our guest that Friday? They said, you ain't got to, it was John Bryce. He said, you ain't got to worry about that. What they lose, like 78-3 or something? It was an insane
something
beatdown.
like that. Yeah, it was bad.
The only reason this might work out for him is because they were predicted to basically be dead last in the Big 12. So if you are kind of tracking with expectations, I don't know, maybe that buys you a little. He could probably go out this year on his good graces if he wants. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, right, Mo? And if he comes back and raises a fuss, it feels like we're trending more toward the hard way. It has not been pleasant there in Stillwater.
Yeah, I mean, I have to kind of go with the Shaq O'Neal line with Bryce, I guess. I'm sorry, I was not familiar with Oklahoma State's game. And
they are putrid.
Apparently. So, that'll bear watching. I was looking at coacheshotseat.com over the weekend just to see what that was shaking out like, and he is definitely in the top 10. I think he was 8th, maybe. So,
Here's the thing, Mo. It's one thing to go out and lose to Oregon. It's one thing to, be predicted to finish last in the Big 12. When you kind of enter this realm of Oklahoma's rolling, everybody is paying attention to every other program except yours. The fact that no one's really even that concerned, that tells you all you need to know.
And
you're not even relevant at this point.
And you paid Tulsa, I think, $400,000 to come into your place and beat you.
May have been a smart move putting it on a Friday night. Not as many people tuned in, I suppose. It is, when you enter this realm of just the doldrums and just irrelevancy like OSU is, it's tough right now. The only good thing that came out of this whole weekend was Ollie Gordon rushing for a touchdown on Thursday Night Football for the Dolphins. That's about the only thing positive that happened to Oklahoma State this week. And he came, and he has his own baggage from there. But it is about as rough of a situation as you can get in Stillwater.
Yeah, Gundy is number 8. On Coach's Hot Seats.
That's only because there's 7 other really good candidates ahead of him, I feel.
Napier.
He's got to be up there.
Joe Moorhead at Akron. Sonny Cumbie. The aforementioned Trent Dilfer. Lance Taylor at Western Michigan. Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. And Tony Elliott at Virginia are your 1 through 7s before you get to Gundy at 8. Butch Jones at Arkansas. Man, it's tough. It's tough in Arkansas these days. Butch Jones is 9 and Sam Pittman is 10. Pittman after Arkansas's loss to Memphis in Memphis on Saturday.
Sonny Cumbie, you mentioned him. It's going to be fascinating because Louisiana Tech, though, that guy could go from getting fired tomorrow to winning the conference. They are still one of those teams, and they gave LSU a pretty damn good game, a couple weeks ago, 23-7. There's a couple guys on this list. You mentioned Tony Elliott. The whole state of Virginia feels dumpster fire-ish in terms of football at the moment, outside of Old Dominion and James Madison.
Outside of Old Dominion.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody else is kind of struggling at the moment. So we have entered that season, and you're right, to your original person at the top of that list, Billy Napier. It feels like he is perhaps not long for Gainesville, and it feels deja vu all over again because it was right around this time last year we were having that conversation.
Yeah, and it was DJ Lagway that saved him last year, and it might be DJ Lagway that's kind of pushing him toward the door this time around, sounds like, from the sound of this past weekend's game against Miami. By the way, Caleb DeBoer and Brent Venables 12 and 13 on this list. I don't know if it's been updated since this weekend or not, but Venables with a pretty big win on Saturday.
Yeah, they're undefeated.
Yeah, so I don't know. Trust but verify on this. What else caught your eye in college football? Because I'll tell you what caught mine. Indiana 63, Illinois 10.
Running it up, baby.
I mean,
I guess to the playoff, perhaps, right?
Yeah, I guess if you're going to talk all the trash that he talked over the summer, you got to come through with one of those. But I just wouldn't have expected a top 25 matchup between those two to be a 53-point beatdown on the part of the Hoosiers there. But Kurt Cignetti got his team cranked up one more time, I guess.
Yeah, and you know, this was a game that I predicted Indiana to win big on our show on Friday. Didn't obviously.
I don't think you predicted them that big.
No, not that big. Yeah. And I got a couple Illinois friends that are near and dear to my heart, and I was texting them to make sure they were okay on Saturday because it was rough. It was a game that got away from them early, and Indiana just was way more up for that game than Illinois was. And those are two decent teams. Illinois is on the come up. Don't get me wrong. They were punching above their weight though with that number 9 ranking. They're probably nice and cozy around a 20 to 25-ish ranking in terms of just where they are as a program. But that kind of proved it, right? You're not ready to go on the road into Big Ten in a quote-unquote hostile environment and prepare, and they kind of stubbed their toe. Indiana's not necessarily the greatest team you've ever seen as well, but they ran into a buzzsaw. It was a tough watch if you were an Illini fan.
Speaking of tough watches and teams in orange, Syracuse 34, Clemson 21. And this was after another classic Dabo rant. And if they don't like winning, they can send me on my way, blah, 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 blah. I'll just go somewhere else and coach. Well, I wonder at what point it was Saturday that he might have thought that was a pretty good idea. Clemson is what, 1-3? Their worst start since Dabo took over.
1-3, and I'm coming for you, FanDuel, because they need to pay me my money. I got an under 9.5 bet on Clemson. That bet is cashed. What's the date today? We're sitting here September 22nd. They're holding my money, though. They won't pay me out just yet. Under 9.5 wins. Clemson is entering dumpster fire mode, and Clemson is also in this. I'd love to get Felder's thoughts on this next time we have him on, because Clemson was dramatically punching above their weight for that long, long stretch. They are a smaller school that kind of just caught lightning in a bottle for such a long time that they were kind of looking around the room like, hey, we're one of the big guys in the room. And they were at that time. But the game has changed. And we've talked about it, and it's been well documented that they've not adapted to this new era of modern college football. And they're on the verge now of going right back to where they were before they enjoyed those glory years, which was basically irrelevancy in the ACC. Their season is over, and we're not even to October yet.
And the thing about it is, you know, while Dabo gets, you know, high and mighty about it, it might be the best thing for everybody involved because, like you said, he doesn't want to play this game the way this game is being played now.
Right, and he's almost played out the string, you know, all of the recruits and all of the talent and everything, the last little glimpse of Clemson magic has pretty much ran out. So if this was not the year, they were really loading up. You know, Klubnik was obviously your Heisman favorite coming into the season. All of that magic has kind of gone by the wayside now. So if you're Dabo, you have to change up something at Clemson if you want to kind of recapture any sort of national relevancy. Otherwise, you're on the verge of, just drifting out to sea. Or, to your point, maybe a changing of the guards would be best for both parties. That's going to be a very interesting case study for not just the rest of this season, but obviously during the offseason. They got to go to North Carolina. They got to go to. They got a bye week this week, and then they got at UNC in 2 weeks. That should be electric at 11 a.m. over in Chapel Hill.
Oh, that should be fun. What's the saying? Either you die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. I wonder if we're not seeing that play out right here in Clemson, South Carolina. Couple other things I wanted to get to real quick before we get out of here. Oh no, that was it. But former Appalachian State coach and most recently UCF offensive line coach Sean Clark had a medical emergency a couple of weeks ago. He has passed away at the age of 50. Had a medical emergency on September 9th. It was announced earlier today, I guess, by the school. He died yesterday. Again, 50 years old. Joined the staff down at Central Florida this past season. Had left Appalachian State midway through the season last year, I think. Joined Scott Frost's staff this offseason. Sean was so much more than a coach. He was a remarkable man, husband, and father who cared deeply about his players and staff. The reaction of our players and coaches to the news this morning is a testament to Sean's character and the impact he had on every life that he touched. He was loved. Hate to hear that anytime. Again, former Appalachian State football coach Sean Clark, most recently an assistant at Central Florida, passed away yesterday at the age of 50. Let's go ahead and take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will visit with Steve Layman of News Channel 5, talking a little Tennessee Titans football. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend wrap-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from News Channel 5, it is Steve Layman as we consider the Tennessee Titans 0-3 following yesterday's most recent beatdown by the visiting Indianapolis Colts. Steve, good afternoon.
Mo, Wade, how are we doing today?
We're hanging in there.
We're doing okay. The question is, I think Brian Callahan had a 1240 press conference. How is Brian Callahan doing?
Probably not as good as any of the three of us are doing, that's for sure. The Titans did not play very well yesterday, and I think there's two big concerns if you're Brian Callahan right now, guys. Is number one of the big things this year was the growth of the Titans. I don't think anybody, if they're being honest, even the most diehard Titans fans expected this team to come in and compete for a division title or maybe even get to the playoffs this year. But you were looking for growth and progress in year two under your head coach. I don't think you can point to anything in these first three games that says this team is demonstrably better. You may like Cam Ward. There's a lot of football left to be played. But I don't think there's anything to point to in the first three games that says, oh, this team has taken a big jump in that area. Maybe special teams under Bones Fossil, but by and large, not much. And then the second part of it is we're having a conversation about Brian Callahan's ability to manage in-game situations right now. We talked about it in week one with the Io Manor catch along the sideline and his mishandling of the situation in the 2-minute drill late in the first half. We're doing it again now in week three. This was not a common theme that we had last year about Brian Callahan and his game management. Now, all of a sudden, it has been an almost weekly thing here at the start of the season. And as an embattled head coach, that's a problem. When your team's not playing well, if we're also discussing your in-game management and decision-making, you've got a lot to answer for. And at the moment, he doesn't really have the answers.
And that seems to be the worst problem. He doesn't have the answers.
Yeah. I think that's a problem for everybody at the Titans organization at the moment. Is there's a lot of things that are wrong right now. The roster has not been good for the last several years, even going back to the end of Mike Vrabel's tenure here. And every answer they've had, whether that be big spending in free agency or going into the draft, whatever it might be, has really not panned out to make the roster better. I think this is now basically year 4 of operating with a bottom 5 roster, certainly bottom 10 roster in the NFL. And it doesn't really show signs of getting better in that regard. So that's an issue right there. But then from a coaching staff, you got to find a way to make the most out of whatever you do have on that roster. And at the moment, it just really doesn't seem like Brian Callahan, his coordinators, or the position coaches on this team are really making the most out of what they have. And so you just have a bad football team on the field.
Steve, the national media is now kind of circling for the first time, really, it feels like, in terms of Callahan and his job security. And this was the thing that the Titans maybe had at their advantage, was the fact that not a lot of people were paying attention to him. Now with kind of some national headlines kind of circling and 3 road games coming up, where does this go from here in your mind with Callahan and the rest of the team?
Wade, I think the noise only gets louder as long as they keep losing and looking dysfunctional in the process. And the reason why people are checking in is because people are excited about Cam Ward. He was the number 1 pick in the draft, and he's a quarterback that many believe can be a franchise-type talent in this league. And so you check in to see his progress, and you watch a team around him look completely dysfunctional. And in a case like yesterday, if you tune in at the end of the first half, you see a head coach who wasted timeout immediately after the other team's timeout, still can't make up his mind, doesn't get the kicking team on the field quick enough. They take a delay of game penalty to move an already long 57-yard field goal back to 62 yards. They miss it. The Colts get the ball. They move into field goal range, kick their own field goal before halftime, and there's boos all around at Nissan Stadium. And I think you just immediately scratch your head if you don't check in every week and say, what the heck is going on there? What is Brian Callahan doing? And so I do think the noise is only going to continue to grow on that front until they find a way to change this momentum and maybe win a game they're not supposed to.
And making that matters worse, Steve, ownership was on hand. You know, Mike Keith goes into Ring of Honor yesterday, so the quote-unquote big dogs were all there, and the boo birds were as loud as they could realistically be at Nissan. Steve, I do want to ask you, though, on the flip side, man, it felt like we saw maybe a Coach of the Year candidate with Shane Steichen. How did the Colts somehow rise from the ashes, a team that was basically irrelevant in their own right last year, who looked pretty doggone good yesterday?
Yeah, I think the biggest answer there is they've solved their quarterback position, at least for now. When you talked about the Indianapolis Colts in the offseason or even in training camp, as there was a position battle going on there, I didn't have any faith in the quarterback position. I didn't have faith that Anthony Richardson was the answer for this team, and I still don't in the long term. But I never doubted the roster that they had around the quarterback position. It's actually kind of the exact opposite if you like Cam Ward at the moment. You may think he's got the talent and can be the long-term answer, but the pieces around him aren't any good, so it's really hard to see that right now. Indianapolis has been the opposite. They've had a roster that has looked like a team that was poised to compete, at least in the division and for a playoff spot over the last couple of years, and they have gotten putrid quarterback play that hasn't allowed them to take off. Daniel Jones has come in and been, first and foremost, efficient and protected the ball, and then beyond that, at times he's been borderline spectacular to this point. They punted for the first time all year yesterday. They punted one time. And so this is a team through 3 games that has only punted the football once. They can run the ball very effectively with Jonathan Taylor behind that big bruising offensive line. And if Jones continues his play of efficient, productive football from the quarterback position, this is now the team to beat in the AFC South, I think clearly, and a team that could make some noise in the AFC.
Steve Layman of News Channel 5. Joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Steve, you know, we've kind of set it up here with all of the missteps on the part of Brian Callahan through these first 3 games. He's 3-17 now for his career. His next 3 games are on the road. Texans, Cardinals, Raiders. The last coach that got fired, well, I'll take that back. The last coach that got fired was Mike Vrabel. But before that, Ken Wisenhunt got fired at 3-20.
Yeah, and don't forget about Mike Mularkey in there too. There's been a lot of firings around.
There have been a bunch of firings, but
and the front office. But I get your point, Mo, and it's a very difficult stretch here. Number one, Houston is always a red letter game for the Tennessee Titans. That game with the Titans going back to Houston may be the game with the most animosity between a city and another organization and the ownership group of that organization that you will find in the National Football League. So that is always a game that both entities have circled on their calendar, and certainly will be the case again for Amy Adams-Strunk. So I would advise Brian Callahan and the Titans not to lay an egg on Sunday, because that could result in very bad vibes from the ownership on down early next week. But even after that, the Cardinals look really good right now. By the way, the Cardinals are run in the front office by a guy who used to work for the Titans. So another combination there or connection that Amy Adams-Strunk might think about when that game goes on. And then you go into Vegas, a team coached by a first-year head coach, to end out that 3-game road trip. And if you don't get a win in one of those 3, even if you play them close and you survive each week, then you get to that magical number that you were alluding to, Mo, where Brian Callahan would be 3-20 overall midway through his second season. And that's exactly what Ken Wisenhunt was when he was fired back in 2015, shortly after Amy Adams-Strunk took over as the controlling owner of this franchise. That's a number you don't want to get back to. I don't think they want to make a move. They would like to keep more consistency here for their young quarterback. But at some point, if the losses keep piling up, it's going to happen. And if they go 0-3 on this road trip, I could certainly see a move being made then.
And if you go 0-3 on this road trip and a move is not made, then your next home game is against the Patriots, who are coached by a pretty familiar face as well.
Yeah, no question. Mike Vrabel coming back, and you got to imagine, Mo, he would be out for blood coming back. He's not going to feel sorry for Brian Callahan or Amy Adams-Strunk or anybody around the Titans organization. And so as you look at it, the sad thing is here, just 3 games into the season, I feel like we're sort of putting benchmarks out there for if Brian Callahan is still the coach or not at this point. Does he make it through this weekend in Houston and that red letter day? Does he make it through the end of this road trip, the 3 games that they play back to back to back here on the road? Does he make it past the showdown with Mike Vrabel on October the 19th? Does he make it to the bye week there in the second weekend of November? There's basically now 4 benchmarks between now and the bye week at the midway point of the season that you're going to have to check in on to see if Brian Callahan is still the head coach of this football team. And that's just a disastrous place to be, namely if you're Callahan, but for the organization, because they're trying to get guys to play hard. They're trying to build up some continuity here, help their young quarterback grow to a place where you can figure out if he's the guy or not. And at the moment, there's just a ton of distractions around that, because remember last year, you were trying to figure out whether Will Levis was the guy or not. And what you found out last year was he wasn't. But what that kind of allowed is when he went out, you just sort of allowed everything else to play, because you weren't going to make a move on Callahan. He was going to come back this year, and you keep going there. And obviously they make the move with Rand Carthon then in the offseason. But now it feels like the clock is just ticking on the next move, and it almost feels like that stagnates any progress you can make anywhere else on the roster, which is why I think that seat is going to grow increasingly warm, at least from the outside, for Brian Callahan here in the next few weeks.
And you make the point, Steve, that you want to try, for the sake of stability with your number 1 pick at quarterback, you want to try to get through this situation. But at the same time, if things continue to transpire like they have transpired over this first 3 weeks at that spot, how much good are you doing, Cam, by having Brian Callahan in that position?
Yeah, it's really hard, because you're talking about weighing two things here, guys. Is I think if you're being honest with yourself, you would love the Titans to get to a place where they have some level of continuity and consistency amongst the football hierarchy over there, whether that's the front office, the coaching staff, or both together. They just haven't had that over the last several years, really about 5 years, going back to the decision to part ways with John Robinson. But at the same time, I'm also a big believer in momentum. And sometimes when it goes really bad, it's very difficult to regain the belief, to get a professional locker room to think this head coach is the guy who can lead us to the next step. We can follow him. We will continue to get better. I know we're not seeing the results right now, but we will get there. I don't know if you can realistically expect this locker room to continue to follow a coach that's 3-17, going on 3 and whatever over the next several weeks here, unless they somehow get a result or two in this mix. And so it's a really difficult process because I thought over the summer, I thought it was really important that the Titans give a fair shot to Callahan, really give him the entire season here to work it out for Cam Ward, because you also don't want to blow it all up on Ward. So your prized quarterback has to learn a completely new offense again next year and get reintegrated and all that and have to start over again essentially in year 2. That's the worst thing you can do for a young quarterback. But at the same time, maybe the worst thing you can do for the football is keep doing the same thing that's getting you beat. And so that is something that everyone, from Amy Adams-Strunk to Burke Nihill to Chad Brinker to Mike Borgonzi, they're going to have to be talking about over the next several weeks here into this season is, are you trying to keep things the same for Cam to get the most out of him and see if you can make him the guy that you can believe in long term? Or are you trying to figure out if you can win any games at all this season? Because I think your decision-making process is very different based on the answer to that question.
Steve, I wanted to ask you too, the news comes out late last week that T'Vondre Sweat, he's on IR, so you're going to miss him at least all those games on that road trip and probably even that Patriots game. But what can you tell us? What updates did we get coming out of yesterday's result? Maybe, if any, promising updates in terms of the offensive line and elsewhere injury-wise?
Yeah, injuries are started to pop up for sure, Wade. That's a big one. I think T'Vondre Sweat being out against a team that wants to run the ball like the Colts is a big, impactful loss, and they're going to miss him over the next several weeks as well. I think you may get some good news this week on the offensive line. There is a shot, at least as we stand here on Monday, that both Kevin Zeitler and J.C. Latham can be back on the right side. I'm not sure they both will, but I think there's a shot, which at least is good news in the sense that I don't think you're talking about a long-term injury like Sweat, where you're going to have to hold them out now 3 or 4 games to get them back into the fold. I think they're going to be back potentially as soon as this week, but certainly in the next couple of weeks, which is big for that offensive line, which along with Cam Ward not getting the ball out in time and maybe receivers not getting open as much as they need to or as quickly as they need to, has led to an NFL high 15 sacks so far this season. But there are some nicks and knacks on this roster right now, and they just can't afford that because probably the most glaring thing is the fact they don't have any depth. It's not a good, talented roster, but when they start to lose guys, there's literally nothing behind them right now to go in and make plays, and I think you saw that at times late in the game yesterday.
Steve Layman of News Channel 5 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Tennessee 0-3 following yesterday's 41-20 loss to the Indianapolis Colts, heading to the other 0-3 team in the AFC South, the Houston Texans, this weekend. And, Houston 0-3 after losing to Jacksonville yesterday. So, as you mentioned, this is kind of a benchmark game within this franchise, but Houston's certainly looking to get right this weekend as well.
No question about it. You're going to get a motivated Texans team that basically is on its last legs to try to save this season. The statistic is if you start 0-3, you've got a 2% chance to make the playoffs, and this was a Texans team that was predicted by almost everybody to win the AFC South again this season. And here they are at 0-3 with a loss to Jacksonville, who isn't even the best team in the division at this point, with Indianapolis at the top. And so I think it's been a very, very disappointing start in Houston. their offensive line is a mess. We talk about the Titans' problems. The Texans are equally as bad up front on the offensive line. And it's not a great roster around C.J. Stroud and some of the talented pieces they have there offensively. They do have some great pass rushers on the other side that will test the Titans for sure. But this is a game where you're going to have a very hungry Texans team to try to salvage something of the first month of the season and see if they can get back going in the right direction and get into this AFC South race. And you have a Titans team that's really going to be fighting for jobs, quite literally, I think, when they hit the field Sunday in Houston. So there's a lot to play for, even though really all they're playing for Sunday is the opportunity to get out of the cellar.
Yeah. It's not playoffs or pink slips, as a former Titans owner once said, but there really feels like there's a lot at stake for the Titans in this one against, like you said, an equally hungry Houston Texans team this weekend. Steve, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. And
real quick, Steve, you and I are friends, and I hate to do this, but Mo and I talked about it a minute ago before you got on the show. Illinois at Indiana. What the heck happened on Saturday? I'm sorry, brother. I got to ask you.
I'm sorry. Is our time up?
There's the bell.
Look, it was bad. It was a really, really bad performance all the way around. It was just kind of a snowball going downhill. Indiana played great. They're way better this year than they were last year, if anybody has watched them over the course of 2 years. Kirk Cincinnati's done an incredible job, and he returned 17 or 18 starters from last year's team that went into the playoffs. And the guys he lost, he may have replaced with better guys. Like Curtis Rourke was a really good player, but he was a transfer from JMU. He replaced him with a guy who's going to be at the top of draft boards for many people next year, and Fernando Mendoza at the quarterback position. And he was unconscious for a second straight week and really all 4 games that Indiana has played so far. That is a really good football team that I think has an opportunity to get back to the playoffs once again this year. Illinois didn't play well. Brett Bielema's team, since he's been at Illinois and really throughout his career, generally don't hurt themselves. They got a punt blocked for a touchdown early on in that game. They missed over 20 tackles in the game. Those are mistakes that you just don't normally see from them. And then the injuries started to pile up in that game. They had 10 DBs on the trip, 10 total DBs on the traveling roster. 7 of them got knocked out of the game the other.
Oh, my word.
And so by the time you got to the second half of the game, they just didn't have bodies on the field either. So it was ugly. It was probably one of the hardest games I've ever had to sit through as an Illinois alum and fan. I don't think Indiana is 63-10 better than Illinois if they played that game a lot, but I do think they're better than Illinois. And on that night, they certainly were 63-10 better. And so a great job by Kirk Cincinnati and Indiana. I think you're going to see a lot more big-time performances from them this season. And Illinois has got to go back to the drawing board. Number 1, to figure out how to get healthy before they play USC this weekend. But number 2, to figure out some of those things that went so wrong on Saturday night.
I was going to ask you, Steve, I felt bad about asking you that a moment ago, but can I offer you USC making the trip all the way out to Champaign at an 11 a.m. kickoff? If there was ever maybe a spot to get back right, this feels like it could be it for your Illini this weekend.
Sure. If nobody wants to tell them what time to set their alarm and maybe they oversleep a little bit and get to Memorial Stadium a little bit late for kickoff, that could certainly play into Illinois' hands. Probably wasn't talked about enough last year how much the time zone travel.
Mo and I talked about it a bunch.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
The teams from the West Coast coming east
did
not fare well last year. And the teams from the Midwest going west largely did not fare well last year. And so now you're starting to see that again this week. You've got USC going to Illinois. You have Ohio State going out to Washington. And obviously the big one on Saturday night with Oregon against Penn State in Happy Valley will be interesting. Can any of the teams doing the traveling multiple time zones, different body clock situation and all that, can they rise up, play well, and get a big win? That's almost more impressive than the teams they're having to play in a lot of ways. So it's going to be a fun weekend in the Big Ten. Some big games, obviously, in the SEC as well, but not quite the same travel for any of those teams.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way the Southeastern Conference kind of kept all their states in touch with each other as they expanded. Was this ever discussed during these decision-making processes?
No, I think they just discussed the cha-chings in the background and the bank account getting bigger and bigger with the brands they added. Look, it's a national sport at this point, so teams are used to traveling, and this was all done for football, and it's not all that different than the NFL when you think about it. The Titans traveling to Arizona or Vegas or Seattle, wherever they have to do, or vice versa. It's just what the schedule is. Where it gets really funky, guys, and we all know this, is when you have Oregon and Rutgers playing in field hockey on like a Thursday night in the fall. What in the world is that, and how does that make any sense? That's one of the many things that I think they'll have to long-term figure out for the health and frankly, the safety of the student-athlete experience in sports beyond football and maybe men's and women's basketball, maybe volleyball or something like that. But a lot of these sports need to stay more regional, keep it better for that experience. But when it comes to football, I think that ship has sailed. They want to make the most money they can, have the most competitive matchups, and it's hard to argue when you look at some of those matchups in the Big Ten or even the addition in the SEC, Oklahoma, Auburn last week, Texas joining into the league. It's hard to argue you're not getting better matchups just about every week now because of the conference expansion.
Oregon, Rutgers playing field hockey, and some of those folks having term papers due the next day as well, by the way. So,
yeah.
Steve, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
But thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here. Let's wrap up the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll tie up some loose ends. Stick around.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it. But it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. WNBA semifinals got started yesterday. A couple of games won. I don't know. Let's see. Minnesota, probably as expected, opens the best-of-5 series against the Phoenix Mercury with an 82-69 victory. That was, again, to be expected. Minnesota's the number 1 seed, your regular season champion, that kind of thing. The Mercury coming in as the 4 seed had to survive a 3-game series against the New York Liberty, your defending WNBA champion. So, again, the Lynx take care of business by 13 in that one. In the earlier game, however, the number 2 seed Las Vegas Aces hosting 6-seeded Indiana, the Fever having to win their game 3 down in Atlanta in the quarterfinals to advance. Stayed hot, 89-73, the Fever over the Aces to open that series. And as they like to say, it's not a series until a road team wins a game. Well, I guess the Aces and Fever are now a series.
Yeah, the Zombie Fever continued to somehow defy the odds and made Vegas look pretty rough from what I saw in the highlights. And Kelsey Mitchell, who Didn't win, obviously, but got some love. Got sprinkled in for a few votes for your MVP. She's kind of carried the weight between her and Aaliyah Boston. And Aaliyah Boston, didn't necessarily have a great scoring night, but you really didn't need to because you got 34 from Kelsey Mitchell. Vegas looked rough, and this is what I was a little bit worried about. Kind of like we talked and we opened the show with NSC. Vegas went on this magical run. And they go on such a run that, you look at the 30-14 record and you're saying, okay, they're pretty dang good. They were awful before that run and got waxed by 40 at home, to the Lynx. Mm-hmm. So this was what I was worried about. What happens when you run up against some adversity? Already dropped one, had to go to that crucial game 3 in the opening series. I still think they got the goods to win this series just because depth is going to wear on the Fever and playing on limited rest here feels like it will play it in their flavor, but I don't know. These zombie Fever just continue to win games. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt getting 17 points from Odyssey Sims, either noted scorer since her days at Baylor, so she can put it in the basket, and the Fever benefiting from that. Again, 89-73, the Fever takes a 1-0 lead in that best-of-5 series.
And they didn't sign Sims Mo till late in August. I mean, she was a hardship waiver. I mean, that was because of all the injuries. She wasn't even. She was just chilling until the Fever said, "Hey, we got to have somebody to fill out the roster." And boom, here she is, putting up 17 against a couple of time champs.
Both series resume tomorrow night. Minnesota and Phoenix at 6:30 tomorrow. Vegas and Indiana at 8:30 tomorrow, both on ESPN, so be sure and check those out. Wade cashed in over the weekend. He still wants his money on Clemson, but but Asia Wilson was named WNBA MVP for the 4th time, 2nd year in a row. Best player in the league. Clearly.
She was down the stretch. Nafisa Collier had that title until she went out, and when she went out, there was Asia right there to fill in the gap, and she stole that award from Collier. If Collier had come back maybe a week earlier, and maybe Asia Wilson tapered off just a little, this vote would have been a lot closer. Who knows? We might have even had another split vote. That burned me for a little extra cash I could have used on the defensive player of the year. Not that I'm salty or anything, but
no.
The fact is, Asia Wilson stole it away from Nafisa Collier. I will admit, though, there's a lot of conjecture about the WNBA and things of that nature. When you're it just felt odd you're announcing your MVP at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I know there's not necessarily a right place, right time for a lot of these things, but just when you release that at 9 a.m., I was happy about that. It made my Sunday start off on a nice financial note, but bit odd. The NBA, they program their MVP presentation usually on hand during a game. Why could you not do that yesterday?
It feels like just from a scheduling standpoint, the WNBA figures out the most inopportune time to do things, and that's when they do them. I mean, why are you opening these semifinals against the NFL?
Great question.
So, it's not a question that Noelle Quinn will have to worry about, at least not for the time being. The former Seattle Storm coach was dismissed yesterday after dropping that game 3 in that quarterfinal matchup with the Aces. Again, the Storm, the number 7 seed coming into the postseason, extended the second seeded Aces to a 3rd game. But Quinn, an 11-year veteran player in the league, played twice with Seattle, took over the coaching reins in 2021, 97 and 89 career during the regular season, 4-8 in the playoffs, 23 and 21 this past year, again, the number 7 seed, and she's out.
Moving swift, and probably won't be the last move that we'll see, right? I mean, these moves seemingly come quicker and quicker every year, and they come more plentiful.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to last year and what we saw, that kind of thing, we talk about what have you done for me lately. It feels like that rings true in the W more than it does almost anywhere else. So the Storm, the first team to market in terms of trying to replace a coach here in the
Yeah,
WNBA.
Who knew? You know, when Vegas turned out the lights when the Storm throw up that shot at the end of the game, who knew they were also turning out the lights on the coaching staff?
There you go. We talked about preseason hockey. The Predators picked up a couple of wins over the weekend. Yesterday, specifically, they blanked the Florida Panthers 5-0, and then they defeated the Florida Panthers 5-3. And I'm not sure what it means. It's the first preseason games of the NHL season. It's preseason, so I mean, I wouldn't put a whole lot into it, but winning is nice.
Yeah. For a team that didn't win a lot last year, any win feels like a good win. And, you know, the main things, get everybody up into game shape, get everybody up to speed. You know, a little 5-0 victory. Had some friends. The good news is if you want to go on the cheap, this is your time to do it. Because if the Preds do start winning games, those tickets start skyrocketing. You can get in for $5 basically yesterday. So nice little effort from the guys, and you know, see what happens.
I think we talked about this last year when NASCAR went to New Hampshire. The winner at New Hampshire gets a live lobster, I think. And so I hope Ryan Blaney knew how to prepare that thing after this weekend's race, edging out Hendersonville's Josh Berry. And this is interesting to me. Josh Berry finished dead last in each of the 3 races in the round of 16. He's out of the playoffs. He is racing as a non-playoff driver yesterday up at New Hampshire. Finishes second.
Had to wait till the stakes were low and then cash in.
That's wild. But Ryan Blaney gets the win at New Hampshire, punches his ticket into the upcoming round of 8. Again, Josh Berry was second, and I'm not finding my other leaders, unfortunately. I think William Byron was third, though. So at least one driver is through to the round of 8 here. Let's see. Next up is Kansas this weekend. In Heather's backyard, the playoffs go to continue the round of 12. So we will continue to keep an eye on that. I would imagine David and Calvin will be visiting with Heather later this week. But Blaney getting the win. Where am I? Trying to, again, come up with the list of who did what behind him on yesterday afternoon, and struggling to do so because my interwebs are acting up. Yay.
We'll have to take everybody. We'll have to take Heather's word for it later in the week. I didn't watch a single second of this weekend.
Yeah, there we go. Let's see. What else caught your attention this weekend, Wade?
Special teams, baby. My goodness, we had the witching hour of all witching hours yesterday in the NFL. Kicks being blocked left, right, kicks being returned. Talk about a cover for the ages. If you had a Rams +3.5 ticket, I feel your pain yesterday because the kick is blocked and ran back for a touchdown. And the Eagles, Jalen Hurts has now won his last 17 games, Mo, that he has started and finished. Had a loss where he departed the game, but any game that he has started and finished for the Eagles, he has won. That was a mammoth showdown yesterday that ends in wild fashion.
And that one swung on a thick 6, as Chip likes to say, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the kick is blocked. If you have the Rams, you're +3.5. You're counting your money as the Rams are lining up for a field goal to win the game. What's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst could happen is your kick gets blocked, and then they decide for no good reason at all to take it. That young man got up to 18 miles an hour, I heard. That is earthquake levels up there in Philly. They are flying high, and yes, my beloved Jets, they blocked a field goal for a touchdown. Wasn't meant to be, though. Baker leading his 3rd straight touchdown drive to win a game for the Bucs, who were undefeated.
Got to keep your eye on the Bucks. Nice shirt. That's going to do it for the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join Wade and Calvin at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I'll see y'all Thursday.